Hello, beautiful vegans. Welcome to Empowered Vegans, the show that inspires and empowers vegans to live their best lives. Hosted by me, Mariquita Solis, vegan empowerment coach. Each week, I feature leading experts in the vegan and plant based world, sharing inspirational stories, practical tips, and empowering conversations. My mission is to support the vegan community in living a fulfilling, joyful life while making a positive impact on the world. As a transformational coach, I also offer coaching programs, one on one or group coaching, to help vegans navigate the challenges and create a life that aligns with their values. So please welcome my guest today, Tom Glaser. He's a licensed psychologist, and he's going to be talking to us about happiness and how we can up our happiness levels, right? What we can learn from the happiest people on earth. So if you're watching on StreamYard or on the replay, let us know where you're watching from and let us know, well, what inspires you to be happy and how we can help. So welcome, Tom.
Yeah, and is veganism part of happiness? Wouldn't that be a fun question to explore?
Yes. Yes, that's a very important question. So I know you have a little exercise for us today. Let's start out with that
Yeah.
if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. So this comes from the public speaking gigs, Marquita, that I was doing and still continue to do, based on my book, Full Heart Living: Conversations with the Happiest People I Know. And I'll say more after we do this little activity, um, about how I came to this. Um, and I will just note that you're being very brave. You don't know what's coming. And I love the willingness to just dive in, and that is one component of happiness right there. Happier people do take more risks, and I'm not talking about unsafety. Not talking about that at all. It's just happier people put themselves out there a little more, and then statistically they're bound to come across happier experiences because they do so. And again, we can talk more about that. Okay, so here's what's going to happen in a nutshell. I'm going to give you a prompt, what I call a conversation spark. You don't know what this is. Again, this is where the courage comes in. You have no idea what I'm going to ask you. It's like a conversation starter or prompt. You're going to have 2 minutes. I will time you, and at about 2 minutes or so, I'll tell you to start to wrap it up. Um, I'm going to be listening as you respond for your themes and values, and I'm going to take about 2 minutes and feed those back. So based on what I heard from you, what does what you told me seem to be about? What's the themes, the overarching idea, and what seems to be important to you? And then we'll talk about how that went and how connected we feel to each other and to ourselves as a result of having done
Sounds
all
good.
that. All right, so you're clear on what we're doing. Okay, let me get my timer ready. I did forget to do that in advance. No worries, though. Okay, your conversation prompt, Marquita, is talk about a time you felt the most alive and why.
Okay. Start.
Go. I started the
Okay.
timer.
Okay. So I think, well, when I was volunteering at Lucky's Wildlife Rescue, getting to see opossums, which I love, and getting to hold them and being around wild animals, I walked in the first day and a squirrel jumped on my shoulder. And then I got to see a little hedgehog and to see a little bat and these animals, just to be connected with them. That was like on the bucket list. Really, I don't have anything on the bucket list. That was the only thing. So just being surrounded by all these opossums and seeing their beauty and being curious about them, how would they interact with me, and just welcoming this beautiful process of people, the people at Lucky's Wildlife Rescue helping these animals, and that I'm able to help them too, right? And I was cleaning the cages and everything. And of course, somebody might say it's gross, but I want to give those animals a happy home. And so, I mean, they're a part of me. We're all connected, and that's really my focus. So, really, when I'm scrubbing their cages and making their lives better, better and giving foods. I get joy from that. So yeah, holding them and seeing all the babies and thankful for the mothers that have been rescued and the babies that have been rescued and how we're able to release them afterwards. That just brings me such joy. And walking in one of the little possums that was very old, taking him out and taking him about 20 minutes outside so he can just explore and his quietness and peacefulness, and seeing that and seeing how people view these animals as threats and ugly and mean when they're really not. So just feeling that connection with all these beautiful animals and being a part of helping others makes me very happy. So yeah, and that's what, I never know what animals are going to show up there, like the little bat that was there the other day.
Oh my God. So you heard the timer? Is that why you're
Yeah, I heard the chimer.
you timer, whatever it is. Oh my God. Did I interrupt you? Was there a thought you want to finish?
No, I was just saying I was so
That's
lucky
good.
to see that little bat.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. So again, I was listening for themes and values. And I would say what came to me listening to you, there was a theme of, well, first of all, the theme, I would say, of passion. That would be the number one word. Even the way you spoke, you emphasize the word love and joy. And it's not just those words, although I noticed the words as well. It was the emphasis that you put on those words that really told me this is about passion. There was also a theme of potentially being misunderstood. You talked about both the animals perhaps being misunderstood and that you as a volunteer could be misunderstood. Here you are cleaning cages, right? And so there's their dung or whatever you call it, right? You're cleaning out crap, literal crap. It's worth it to you.
Right.
It's worth it to you because this is your passion. And isn't that true of passions? When we engage in our passions, there are less tasteful components. And it's worth it to us. Like for me, I'll just use a quick example. I think of performing. Like there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into performing, right? You got to rehearse, you got to memorize things. It's a lot of work, weeks and weeks and weeks, sometimes for only one night of a performance. Hours and hours and hours. It's worth it. If you love to perform, it's worth it to you. So overcoming what may seem distasteful to some. What's important to you, values that came to me were being of service. You talked about helping people and helping the animals. And I will say too, these are, we're hitting on top things, and we'll get into this more later, but we're hitting on top things I learned in my project, in my book, that happier people are very involved with their passions and they do give back. There's a couple other things, but I want to pause here. How did it feel to do this activity, and how connected did you feel to me and to yourself as we did it?
Well, I feel very happy because I relived it, right? And I was happy to share it with you. And then, I saw your smile. So I felt connected because of the way you expressed yourself after hearing or while hearing the story. So yeah, it brought connection, and that you cared, right? That you care about what's important to me. That makes me feel connected to you.
Yes, exactly. Bingo. This is the thing that I learned right here. This is an example, a brief example of what I learned. Happier people are connected to themselves. They're very connected to other people. And it is through sharing experiences, whether that's something like this, or like I'm sure you're really connected to other volunteers and to the public if they come to meet these animals, and it sounds like they do. You get really connected to people. Again, it's through your passion. So happier people are connected to other people, themselves, and their passions. These are the key learnings from my book. And I'll show you the cover of my book, by the way. It's called Full Heart Living, Conversations with the Happiest People I Know.
That's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, and the activity we just did, I have a product and that's an example we just did. There's like all the directions, and there's over 100 conversation starters based on the themes in my book, by the way. So that's all here, all available on Amazon. What was I saying? Just that, yeah, that the thing that we, in that tiny little nutshell, we uncovered themes that I learned in my book.
I believe it. You're a good detective.
Well, I can tell you, I came to this through really probably the unhappiest period of my own adult life. I had my dream job. I was a therapist at a college, and I was going to retire there. I was so happy with I looked forward to going to work every day. I got to do all the things I love. I got to do the individual counseling that I liked, and I got to do creative, fun teaching on wellness topics. I felt like I was making a difference in the world. And I was very attached to this job. A toxic coworker showed up. My dream job turned into a nightmare. I bent over backwards trying to make it work with this person, and I was going to wait her out. I assumed she would leave someday, but she wasn't leaving, and I was getting depressed. So I decided to quit my dream job, and I did get depressed. But in the midst of my grief, I noticed really happy people, Mariquita, all around me, and I just got curious. I just started observing at first, and then I got braver, and I started asking them questions, and it snowballed into I started videotaping like interviews with the happiest people I know. And the first day of filming was one of the happiest days of my life. I loved talking to happier people about what makes them tick. And I had known for years I would write a book someday, but I didn't know what I was going to write about until that day. On the break and filming, I'll never forget, we were at my home. I was on the back porch, screened-in porch, and I was like that epiphany. Oh, this is what my book is going to be about. So I wrote the book based on these interviews, and I looked at some research too, but mostly it was kind of my firsthand account, because I wanted to because there's plenty of information out there about the science of happiness, but I wanted to make a point that we all know happier people, and that we can, kind of like you were saying, talking about this and doing that activity at the top of the hour made you happier. We can all do that in our daily lives. Seek happier people out. Talk about what makes them tick. It's going to make you happier. And then when I was first doing the public speaking gigs promoting my book, I would end the talk saying, I hope I've motivated you to connect more deeply with yourselves and with other people. And people would look at me, as you can imagine, with a deer in the headlight looks. They didn't know how to do it. They understood that was what I thought worked, but I didn't show them how to do it. So very quickly, I made my talks experiential, and I did the activity basically that I just took you through with people. So it's in their bodies now, it's in their experience, and then they can replicate it. Now, conversation is not the only way we connect with, I mean, deep conversation like this with a prompt isn't the only way we connect with people. There's lots of ways, but it's kind of a shortcut.
That's like those questions, the questions about, what are they? Like, you want to fall in love with these. Remember that thing that was going on?
I do.
The fall in love questions. I don't know how many they were. That was what, 10 years, 20 years ago? I don't
Yeah, something like that. I'll guess there were 20, but I don't know. Maybe it was 12 or 15. It is sort of like that. Yes. I forget what happened with that research. Do you remember what was the outcome? Like, did it really work?
Well, I mean, some people, I guess, said it did. I mean, it was to fall in love, right? You would, I guess after you went really deep, I guess you're building that empathy and that trust. You're trusting someone,
Yes.
right? And so I could see
Yes.
how it would open you up to love. I mean, it would be an opening. Who knows if you really would fall in love, but you would definitely have to put the trust in that person, and that's the foundation for love.
I think it would help discern, at minimum, it would help you discern whether this is, a person worth pursuing or not. I think. I do
Yeah.
wonder. Yeah, I wish I had wish I could look it up at my fingertips. I don't have that at my fingertips. But
I don't either. I don't even know what it was called. That was so long ago. But
yeah, I don't remember the name either. But I absolutely know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so
You
are you there,
froze
Tom?
up. If
Did
you
you hear
asked
me? Oh yeah.
if you asked a
I was just
question, it got frozen, so I didn't hear it.
I was just asking, why are some people resistant to happiness?
Why are some people resistant to happiness? Oh, I think all of us. I think especially Westerners. I don't know about people in more Eastern cultures, but certainly Westerners. Um, we tend to be creatures of habit. I think people get it's just a matter of habits, and um, there's comfort in familiarity. So even if we're not as happy as we could be, there's comfort in these patterns, and that's compelling to continue. This is what I see with unhappier people that I work with when they feel stuck. There's just patterns of behavior that they actually worked at one point. They served a purpose. They helped them for whatever reason. Like say, there's a good reason to do things that are comforting. Like if someone's particularly anxious, it's good to do familiar things for a while. That helps calm the nervous system. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a reason we have stable patterns in our lives, and they make us function better in many ways, right? When I got my routine in the morning, I can get up and out quickly and into my day. I don't have to think, oh, now where's the spoon? I know where the spoon is. Boom, I got breakfast going. So I help people recognize the reason they got into this habit, this pattern. Thank the pattern. Wow, thank you for protecting me, for helping me calm my anxiety at one point. And now what? Like reminding them you can always go back to this pattern. That pattern's never going to go away from you. That's really well practiced. But there's something else. There's something more you want, right? What would help you not give up your total stability, your comfort? We want to keep that, but you also want something more. What will help you do both? How can you get both? And then together, we come up with ways that they can stay comfortable enough and stretch themselves a little bit. And this is what we started with, you and I, at the top of the hour. I was commending you for being willing to do this activity. You didn't know what that prompt was. You had no idea. You might have been a little anxious. I don't think you were terribly anxious. I didn't see it. But most of us have a little bit of trepidation when we get asked a question from a stranger. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, it helps us. So, like I said earlier, happier people, we absolutely know this, do take more risks. They go out on a limb a little more. Again, I'm not talking about jumping off a cliff without a parachute, literally or figuratively. I'm talking about taking small steps over time, increasing your time, seeing how it goes, experimenting. The phrase I like to use is, what do I need to do to support myself? So when we're scared, we got some energy, there's usually something we really want, but we get scared. Nothing wrong with that. fear has some energy in it. So that question helps us tap that energy with that action question. What do I need to do to support myself? So support is like that stability anchor piece I was talking about earlier, where what's familiar, how can I set myself up for success? Success meaning, by the way, that I took the chance. Success doesn't mean that it goes a certain way, so I'm not attached to outcome. Maybe I'm gonna fall on my face when I try skateboarding for the first time, for instance. So how about I wear some elbow pads and some knee pads? How about I take some lessons? How about I go on a path where there's grass nearby, so when I fall, I'm not as likely to get banged up, right? Those are examples of how do I support myself, as well as like looking at self-talk. What do I say to myself in my mind? Do I say to myself, I can't do this, I'm bound to be a failure, I have no athletic ability? Or do I say, sometimes sports are hard for me, but I really want to do this? I might look really foolish, but I'm going to have as good a time as I can. And if I don't like it, I don't have to go again, right? So it's just looking at what we do in our own minds. That's a way to support ourselves as well. So those are just some examples. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. And I know a lot of people feel like if negative things are happening, or things that they deem are negative in their life, then they can't be happy. And so, I mean, and so I can't be happy until this happens, until I get a better job, or until I get until I get out of this debt or something. And so how can we overcome that? How can we be happy if, if our marriage is failing, or if, our mother hates us, or, we're having family strife? How can we still be happy?
I'm going to give you a both and answer. First of all, there's no absolutes in any of this. So sometimes we do need to make a big change. I needed to leave that job. That job was no longer right for me, for instance, right? I really tried. I tried for 3 years. And in fact, it was my husband who told me, Tom, you have got to stop. He was tired of hearing my complaints about it. He said, you must leave that job. He was right. I needed someone outside because I was attached. I didn't want to give it up. So sometimes there is an external factor that we need to change to the degree that we can. Now, there are certain things that we cannot change so easily. I was fortunate that I was in a position where I could leave my job, and I was able to figure it out financially. I understand that's not always true for everybody. It's not so easy like that. But I just wanted to point out that we do want to look at the externals that influence us. We don't want to just say it's all internal. I have to look at myself all the time, because then sometimes people get into self-blame. Well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I be happy even though I'm in an external situation that makes me miserable? Well, you got to look at both sides. But more to your point is that blaming the external or expecting an external to make me happy. And I write about this in my book. I had a friend who thought once she got a leather couch, that was all she needed. And that was like her goal for 10 years or something. She got the couch and she was thrilled with it. She loved her leather couch. She sat there, she read, she watched TV, she talked on the phone, right? She was thrilled with it. Well, 3 weeks later, she's like, I really need a coffee table. Right. So externals, it's not, there's nothing wrong with surrounding ourselves with things that make us happy. There's a place for doing that. Again, we need to function with some comfort. I'm a believer in feng shui, right? Setting up surroundings that make us feel good. That's very helpful. It's not the whole shebang, though, right? Getting the degree might help you toward happiness. Getting the car, maybe that's your dream. But right, for most of us, objects are very fleeting, and they're not the powerful levels of or drivers of happiness that things like relationships are, which is why I emphasize, and it's from these interviews that I did that I learned those keys. The happier people is how I'm trying to say it, connect really deeply with other people. They have good relationships. They have a tribe. They have people who love them and who they love back, and they feel accepted, warts and all. People who accept them despite, I mean, all of us have rougher edges. None of us is perfect. We make mistakes sometimes. To have a tribe of people who still accept us is huge. Happier people connect with themselves. What does that mean? They know who they are. They know their rhythms. They honor their rhythms. They pursue the things that they enjoy. They're mindful. This is a piece of being connected with themselves. They're in the present moment more or less. Happy people are distracted, and they're more worried about what hasn't come yet, or they're perseverating about things that happened in the past. Happier people are more in the here and now. Connecting with passions. So that's doing things that people adore and doing lots of them. So having whether it's, and it can be, sometimes it's in alignment with career or job. Sometimes it's not. It's no problem. It's just fine. If it's outside of work, that you do things that just bring you energy and joy, particularly again in the service of others. These are the things that really bring long-lasting happiness. Now, there's other chapters in the book. Happier people do other things as well. They're in alignment with their values. They take good care of their bodies. I'm actually going to look at my own table of contents because I am talking so fast that I can't remember. They accept themselves. They're resilient. They're careful about things like watching too much news. So there's all kinds of other things that people do, but those are the top things. But you are absolutely right. It's not expecting some external thing to make that. And again, it's not that we shouldn't pursue a degree, for example, or the couch, for example. It's just not expecting that to be the end all be all.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. You're right. I mean, like, well, I'm the mindfulness and the connection with self, but how do we even start to how can we be happy with ourselves if we're imperfect beings, right? If I say I'm failing every day, how can I go to bed happy with myself? And instead of saying, well, I could have done better, or, like, I know there's a saying that you're only as good as your last performance, or something like that, and I don't like that saying personally. And what would you say about that saying?
First of all, I'm with you. I don't love that saying either. Can we go back to what you started with? I'm failing every day. I'm failing every day. If you notice yourself saying things like that, can you just first of all, mindfulness is waking up. Mindfulness is noticing, oh, I'm saying that same thing. This is a negative thought. It's probably not even true, and it makes me feel terrible. So, but having a light touch with that, not getting down on yourself because you're doing that, which just makes it worse, but going, oh, there I go, doing that thing, that familiar pattern. There's my negative thinking friend who just wants to protect me. Thank you for trying to protect me. And what's really true? Is there another way I can say a similar thing that I believe? I'm not talking about being Pollyanna-ish and trying to convince ourselves of something that's not true. That doesn't work. But just if the thought I'm failing is coming up, like what came to mind right away when you said that was to reframe it as I am trying every day. I'm making an attempt every day to improve my life. No, I'm not seeing the results I want yet. Okay. Well, again, back to that question. What would I need to do to support myself, to get through this hard time? Maybe I need to talk to a friend who believes in me, who's going to help me recognize that I'm not actually failing every day. But back to that say, okay, well, yeah, there's that saying. It's something like, we're only as good as our last performance, let's say. Bullshit. No, that doesn't define our, that doesn't define us. What defines us? Think about what's that saying? No, who am I, that last performance? And maybe I'll never forget, I messed up the words at the very end of this really important song I was singing in a performance once. I just blanked. I completely blanked on the words. And it was embarrassing. But am I only as good as that? No, my God. I'm as good as I am. I'm as good as my relationships. I'm as good as my effort. I'm as good as, I got up there and tried, right? And made a little bit of a fool of myself in front of 100 people at this performance. But, I was out there singing, not people. Gosh, I know people who won't even sing in private, let alone in public. So give myself credit, right? For getting out there and doing the best I can. And I love to perform, but it makes me pretty darn nervous. I can't help it. It makes me anxious. And sometimes I mess up. Okay.
Well, that means you're human, right? You're human.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And how often do I say that with clients? I bet you do too. I'm sure in your coaching work, right? That comes up. I'm sure I find myself saying that. No, it doesn't mean you're XYZ. It just means that you're a human. Welcome to the human race. Welcome. just like me, I make mistakes left and right. I got a receding hairline that not everybody thinks is attractive. Okay, what the heck?
Well, that's true. Once we accept, I have this book on happiness, and I talk about this thing a lot. This by the Dalai Lama, and he says, once we accept that we're going to have failures, pain, we're going to, have all these troubles, then we can be happier. It's like, okay, I accept that I'm going to fall down. I accept that that the live stream might be all wonky, that I might say the wrong thing. I might forget Tom's name, and when we can accept that, then that it's okay. I'm going to go do my best, and I'm going to appreciate myself for my best. Like I remember Deepak Chopra saying, your best changes every day. So, my best might be just what I have today to bring to you. I'm going to do the best I can. It might not be as good as last Monday when I was, really feeling more energy, but it's for today. And that comparison is the thief of joy.
Exactly. Oh, that's a great quote. I don't know that I've heard that before. It's said that way. I've believed it forever, or at least as long as I can remember. I love what you're saying about acceptance. It's absolutely true. Acceptance is a huge key for happiness. Absolutely. Absolutely. Accepting ourselves, accepting our loved ones. Yes, our loved ones make mistakes sometimes. Sometimes they hurt our feelings. They don't mean to. They don't want to. They're doing the best they can. Maybe they're having a bad day. Can we have grace? Can we have compassion for ourselves and others? And again, happier people are very self-compassionate and compassionate with others. And by the way, compassion doesn't mean putting up with BS behaviors. Not at all. Not at all. No. Loving, true, deep compassion sometimes means calling people on the ways they're harmful and saying you cannot continue to do it that way. That's too harmful. That's compassion. Compassion isn't just, oh, la, 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 you poor thing. You had a hard life, so yeah, now you can abuse people left and right. No, even if you had a hard life, you don't get to perpetuate that. You must take responsibility. All of us must take responsibility for our choices, for our behaviors.
Exactly.
So compassion is saying, I guess I already said it. Go ahead, please continue.
No, that's yes. We have to have, so if we're allowing behaviors like that, we're not having self-compassion because we have to take care of ourselves first, right? And some people say that, that's selfish, but we're not talking about selfishness. We're talking about respectfulness to ourselves. right? Where
Correct.
we get what we deserve. I mean, we get what we deserve, and not in a greedy way, but I mean, we all deserve prosperity. We all deserve joy. We all
Yes.
deserve, it's not just like the nice people deserve it. We all deserve it. And I
Yes.
think the more we can help each other get into that safe space of feeling that way, the better the world will be, because there'll be more caring, more compassion
Absolutely.
for all.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. And back to the number 3 of my list of things that happier people do, connecting with others, self, and passions. When we connect with our passions, when we're in alignment, doing those things that really bring us joy, that's good for everyone. It's not selfish. Yes, there's an extra uh, component if we're in service of others, if we're making the world a better place. But sometimes, like artists say, they feel compelled to make whatever it is that they like to make, the sculpture or the painting, the photograph. Um, and it might seem in the moment that it's very selfish and self-involved, and they're just alone in their studio, let's say, creating. But think of, first of all, well, there's so many things here. To me, that's a really good energy that they're putting out in the world. When they are in that place, they're in the zone. They are, they, this is what happier people do in their passions too, right? They lose, I'm talking about the sense of flow, that there's an activity that so engages us that we lose all track of time. We even lose sense of ourselves. It isn't us who's doing it. And I feel this way, by the way, sometimes in my work, Marquita. Like my work as a psychologist and as a coach, I'm a coach too. It's not me doing it. I'm there and I have all the training and I have all this experience and I work really hard. But when I'm in the flow, it's like there's a voice from beyond. It's something out there and it's just coming through me. I'm just a channel. And there's stuff I can't even know that comes to me. And the client's like, I didn't tell you about that. How would you know that? And I'm not saying I'm like a woo-woo psychic either, although it might be psychic. It's just, this is what happens. Anyhow, the point is, the artist in the flow, making the sculpture, the photograph, the painting, it might seem selfish. They're in their studio all by themselves for a while. They're putting out really good energy into the world because they're in that flow. They're in alignment. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing what they came to this planet to do. And we never know the effect of that photograph, sculpture, or painting, for example, might have on another person. So then eventually it gets out in the world, right? So right behind me, I have some artwork, right? I have these shelves that some artist type designed, probably, right? There's a designer who figured out the dimensions of this floating shelf. There's a designer who figured out this is a silk plant. Somebody figured out how to make this beautiful thing. This thing brings me great joy. I love having this behind me. I love having the greenery of plants. I love my books. I love my photograph that's right behind me, the candles. Um, these things do contribute. Is it the end all be all? Not necessarily, but they contribute to an environment that helps me show up in the world in a way that's better. So then I do more good deeds. Then I can come out into the world and cause less harm and hopefully do more good. It's a win-win. It's not selfish. It's not selfish. Everybody wins when we all do what we came to this world to do.
Amen to that. You're right. Because we're all connected. So that's the thing. We're all connected. When you grow, I grow. We all lift up collectively, and we're all
Right.
influencing. I don't know how many people, like, each person is influencing, but it's rippling out. So we have to
Yes.
remember that our energy, whatever we're getting up and we're giving it to the world, and people can feel it, right? They can feel when you love yourself, because then you're going to love others. But when you hate yourself, you're looking like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? What did he do wrong? Right? What did she do wrong? Right? But like, how can I be kind to myself, and how can I extend kindness to the person over here. Maybe they're having a temper tantrum in the store, but how can I look at it like that's not a bad person. This is a person who's struggling. This is a person who needs extra love, and switching it, because that makes me feel happy to think, how can I have empathy? And it doesn't come just like, oh yeah, I'm going to be empathetic. I have to think about it, be mindful about it, and switch from that judgment to let go of that judgment and switch into empathy.
Oh, I love that, Mariquita. It's so true. Yes, exactly. Exactly. My hunch is you're a pretty happy person.
I'm very happy, yes, but I've worked very hard on it, because I used to hate myself. And it's interesting. I'm taking a little positive intelligence course now, and the point that what we're doing is looking at pictures of ourselves when we were little and loving that little
Mm,
girl, and connecting
mm,
this little girl she is deserving. There's 100% deserving, right? And then that little girl is here inside of me. So
yes.
connecting, really driving that home. So I've been working on that this week. And now the new twist is looking like at Tom. Tom's a little boy. How can I be empathetic to him, right? He might mess up
Yeah.
on this live stream, but I still,
Yes.
this is a guy who's got a heart of gold, and he deserves the best too, just like I do.
Mm,
We're these little
thank you.
children, these beautiful, perfect beings that we don't have to do
Yes.
anything else to deserve love and happiness.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Oh, it's wonderful. Mm, mm.
So,
That just
so
makes me feel warm just hearing about your journey. And me too. I've worked very hard at it as well. There's all kinds of trauma in my early childhood, and it. Yeah, I've just been committed to personal development, and it is pretty amazing to me. Um, in so many of my clients, many of whom, the majority of whom are trauma survivors, how they can live incredible lives despite what has befallen them.
right, it's a shift in perspective, right? Well, what is the gift here? And I know that a friend of mine was saying we can't learn it from, I guess, from that open wound. We have to, I don't know what the quote is, but we have to learn it from the scar, and like if it's too
Right.
new, we can't see the gift. So then we just are compassionate to ourselves. Hey, I know
Yes.
I can't recognize the gift. Let me just go on. Let me give myself extra compassion. And then sometimes we
Exactly.
awaken up to the gift, like, wow, I now see the gift 10 years later, right? I see the gift. So
Yes. The patience that it takes, though, yeah, that can be a trying time. And then we go back to the acceptance, though, that you were mentioning earlier. Okay, accepting. Wow, I'm in the, um, I'm in the pain, a part of the process right now. I'm in the suffering part right now. Accepting that. That's why, by the way, I titled the book as I did, because
oh,
happier people. Yeah, initially, my working title for a long time was choosing happiness, because I was going to make the point that it's about the choices we make, and it is. Happiness is much about choices that we make. Happier people live with their whole hearts. Our whole hearts are not always happy. Happier people accept that. They know they're
mm,
going to be sad sometimes. They know they might get mad sometimes. The Dalai Lama even talks about this, right? The Dalai Lama is not free of anger. He has anger sometimes. I think he's really become quite the master at working with all of his emotions. But so happier people allow themselves to feel anxious sometimes, to feel afraid sometimes. They're not ignoring it, they're not suppressing it, they're not denying it, they're not pretending it doesn't exist. They're going, oh, there it is. Wow, I'm scared, I'm unhappy right now. And that helps them get through it sooner. It's less happy people who don't want to feel it. Avoid, 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 tense, 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 tension. They're locking it in literally to their bodies, into their cells, right? And then it's like, then the process has to be, okay, so how do we unfreeze it? How can we unfold slowly over time? Which, by the way, only comes with safety in relationships. This is what I know to be true.
Safety, you're right, exactly.
Yes.
Well, Tom, let me know, what's your next project? I know you have something else coming on.
Well, it's related to this area where we've been touching on the last few minutes here. So I'm working on another book. I just a couple months ago submitted my first full draft to my editor. I don't have, but I have a possible title. My editor doesn't like this title yet. So we may be changing it, but the working title now is The House That Resilience Built, How a Trauma Therapist Heals. So it's a little bit about my own healing as a trauma survivor myself. But much of it, and it didn't start this way at all. It started very much like my first book, with interviews of trauma survivors who nonetheless are very happy. It morphed into kind of case studies of what I do with trauma survivors in psychotherapy. So it's like key moments in psychotherapy. So I take people through, and it's composites of clients. It's all based on real things that have happened in my experience, but it's not actual clients. So it's like a mix of people all put together to protect confidentiality. But it's what happened in the therapy room that seemed to really take them in a new direction.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this is exciting. I'm definitely excited. And so you'll have to come back on here once that, once that's really going out, you know what I mean? And then let us know where we can get it and everything. So
I would love to.
Definitely excited about this. And well, I'm learning a lot here, Tom. How can everybody get a hold of you?
Well, the easiest way is through my website, fullheartliving.com.
Full Heart Living. And then show us again what we can get from you. The look, I want to get some right now. The Full Heart Living, but those cards.
Yeah. And then these are the conversation sparks. Full Heart Living conversation sparks. Yeah. Or you can buy them separately. Mm-hmm. And this is what the cards themselves look like on the backs, and then the little prompts on the other side. Yeah, I'm told they can be hard to find. Not the book, but the sparks can be hard to find on Amazon. So the best thing, there's a direct link to the Amazon page on fullheartliving.com.
Wonderful. Wow. Well, this has been really interesting. I mean, very, very informative, and my heart is very full. So you've done your job, Tom. I'm very happy to do. And I want you to definitely come back on the show, because who doesn't need a dose of happiness? And these ways that you're showing, how we can really be mindful, accept, and allow feelings, really, and be self-compassionate. All these are very important tips that we brought up today, and that you're really leading the way, showing us. So
thank you.
Well, thank you.
It's been a joy for me too. My heart feels full too. And again, I so appreciate your courage, your willingness to step forward and do something that you had no idea what was coming.
I know, I had no idea. And Ellen is saying, I love this so much. Thanks for watching. We have nice people watching. Susan, walking with my dog makes me happy.
Oh, yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, just seeing those comments makes me happy. So everyone, thank y'all. Thank you, Tom, for giving us this dose of happiness. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you again. And everyone, reach out to Tom on his webpage and get that book and the cards, and let's make our lives even more joyful. All right. Well, thank you, Tom, everyone. Have a beautiful, blessed day.